Good morning, everybody.
We are live.
We are live. Are you awake yet?
I am. We're getting ready to go into a client's house, so I'm wide awake.
So we're wide awake. So we just had a few extra minutes before we get our day started. So we wanted to answer a question by someone that had a great question on our last video.
Yep, we had. I don't know if it's coincidence or not, but Joan from Oregon, we actually picked your question to go with. So Joan from Oregon asked basically how to get started. Well, she's from Oregon. I don't know if Joan realizes it, but I think we're going to Oregon.
Yeah, we are going to Oregon soon. We're going to
really
leave
soon.
in a few weeks. So
A few weeks. Joan, so
make sure that you're paying attention to this. And if you need our help while we're in Oregon, let us know.
we are probably within miles of you. Actually, Oregon can't be that.
I don't think Oregon's too big. It's not as big as California.
Mostly
Anyway,
right.
so
Go
she-
ahead. So anyway, her question was how to get started. So
How to get started with your organizing project, which is a great question. So we always tell people to pick the spot in your house that is bugging you the most. So whatever causes you the most stress, whether it's your office, your kitchen, whatever room you walk into and you're like, oh my gosh, this is driving me crazy, that's the place that you want to start. So that's step number one, pick the spot that's bugging you the most. And then once you've decided that, you want to schedule a time in your calendar to tackle that project. I know that sounds silly, but it's something that has to be done. So schedule a time in your calendar to get that done. And whatever you do, do not back out of that. Like, don't just say like, oh, it's just for me, so I don't have to do that today. Make sure that you stick to it. So pick a spot, schedule it in your calendar, and then decide how long you want to tackle your project for whatever day you've scheduled, whether it's 1 hour, 2 hours, or the whole day. Just make sure that you kind of decide that ahead of time so that you kind of have it in your head. Okay, this is my goal. I'm going to work 4 hours today. And then once you've decided that and had started the project, you can set a timer that will basically help you set a goal for that time. Like, so for some people we'll say like, okay, set a timer for 15 or 20 minutes and then just get as much done as you can in that time. And it pretty much like just revs you up and helps you get going. And I mean, basically you're racing against the timer. So
racing against the clock.
Yeah, racing against the clock. So it helps you move a little bit faster. And then now thinking about that spot where you are going to be tackling it, once you've started the project, you want to like get in there and be like, okay, how did I get to this point? Like, what caused me to get this room cluttered or messy or whatever verbiage you want to use? So keep that in the back of your head and kind of think of how you can prevent that from happening again. So as you're tackling the project, okay, this happened, like I ran out of time or kids or work or whatever. So what can you do to help prevent that in the future? Okay, now back to the space. So once you start digging in, basically you're just going to pick whatever pile is in front of you and you're going to start there. So like that's one of the biggest questions, like how do I get started? And then basically, where do I get started? And it's always pick the pile, like literally you walk in the room, whatever pile is in front of you, that's where you're going to get started. And how do you get started? You basically start putting everything into categories. So like if you're in your office, like, you know, you're going to put your pens and pencils in a pile, your paper in a pile, all your paperwork in a pile, which most of our clients have quite a bit of that because that's...
Everybody has quite a bit of paper.
Every bit of paperwork.
You don't need the paper. You don't. At all.
But that's usually people's biggest hang up is paperwork. So anyway, so put things into the piles, and we like to use bins or baskets or whatever is available to put those items in. So as we're tackling it, like everything is contained. So if you are only doing it for 4 hours, but basically it's going to take you 12 hours, everything is contained and ready to go for your next session. Okay, and then another huge tip when you're sorting things, whatever you do, don't walk around with the object in your house. We catch a lot of clients doing this, like they'll pick something up and like, okay, I'm gonna handle this, and then the next thing you know, they're setting it down on a table in another room. So just make sure that you handle, like if you pick it up, handle it right then and there. And then, so I'm reading some notes here. I didn't want to forget anything. So if you see me looking down, I'm kind of cheating a little bit.
Cheating a lot of it.
I just didn't want to forget.
Basically, one of the main tips is don't touch it more than once. So once you touch it, do something with it. Just don't pick it up, turn around because you have an open spot behind you, set it down, because all you're doing is you're moving one item from one part of the room to the other, and it's not getting taken care of. So have a plan when you get in there. What's it going to be? If it goes with the pens or pencils, paperwork, if it's a toy, deal with it right then and there.
Okay, and then as you're picking up those objects, you want to decide whether or not you're going to keep it. Hey Jess, how are you doing? You want to decide whether you're going to keep it or if it's going to go. So if you don't use it, need it, or love it, it's got to go out the door. And so that can mean basically it's going to get donated, recycled, or trashed. And so if it's going to be donated, or trash, you can basically have trash bags ready or boxes or whatever it is and put those items directly in those. So that way it's only handled once. And then whatever you do, so at the end of your project or whatever, make sure that you get those items donated. Actually, donated.
Donate.
Out the door. Like, do not just create this pile and then this is going to be for donations, and then 3 months later it's still sitting there.
Somebody else can't make use with your stuff if it is still sitting in your hallway or your garage or in a bag that you're going to take there. So let somebody else use it.
Yeah, make sure that it actually leaves your house. And then, so then once you've done sorted everything, you want to find homes for everything. So basically that's deciding where everything is going to go, and it needs to go in a spot that makes the most sense for whatever space that you're tackling and with the easiest access. And so what else with that? So, and then once you have homes,
you do that and it usually works after you get that.
That's me thinking out loud. So basically having homes for everything is key. And then once you've decided that, so you use bins and baskets and everything to help keep everything contained. Hey Natalie, how are you? And then also labeling. Labeling is key, and our clients absolutely love the labels. They're like, that it's worth every single penny just for these tiny little labels.
Because it's illegal in every state to put something in a basket that is labeled something else. So you can't put flashlights in a basket that's labeled
batteries.
It's illegal. So you can look it up. Most laws are on the books right now, so you can find that.
Okay, so anyway, I think that pretty much wraps up those tips. I mean, we don't want to tell you guys everything.
No, I mean, that's what we're here for.
Right.
Like actually rolling up our sleeves and getting to work.
Yeah, so we actually have just a couple of minutes before we need to head in with the client. So I think that's all for today. You guys have an awesome day. We will talk to you probably next week.
Yeah,
See ya.
Sure. See you guys.